It's Mickey Klon again. Thanks so much for joining us today on my channel. I'm so excited and honored to be bringing in Emily and Brianna, the two that basically started and run the Washington State Tea Room. And this group, they literally just served Governor Inslee and friends in Washington with 65,000 written affidavits. These are personal testimonies of individuals who feel wrongfully abused and or mistreated by the government and or the governor and his Clooney's in Washington. That is massive, ladies. Welcome. I'm so excited to meet you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
I mean, okay, so when did this begin? Who's been formulating this? How did you educate people? How did you raise this size of an army?
So I came upon an interview with a team down in Arizona around this time of last year that was talking about how they got their audits through this affidavit process. And I started following them. I actually got in touch with them and their team down there and started learning about what they were putting into practice. And that led me to get into learning about the Constitution, both state and federal, for the first time in my life. And it was a really aha moment of, oh my gosh, so many rights are being violated and no one knows. I didn't know. So that really spurred me on to learn more from the Arizona team. And then that led me to meet teams around the nation that were actually learning as well and putting things into practice, like the Utah team. And I was able to meet with folks and learn from folks, compare notes with folks, and decided, you know, Washington State needs to at least give this a shot as well. So that's where it started. And thank God, towards the end of last year, folks like Emily came along and some other core leaders came along that were raring to go and strong enough and persistent and determined enough to jump in there with me and help me build this up to where it is today. And I will say, just for clarification, that in total we have about 60K documents that are being served to Governor Inslee, as well as the Lieutenant Governor, the President of the Senate, Denny, the Speaker of the House, Laurie Jinkins, our Attorney General, Bob Ferguson, and then both of our Senators, Patty Murray and Maria Cantwell.
That's amazing.
What we're doing.
This is amazing. So what I want you to do is maybe walk people through the true purpose of an affidavit and what it is, you know, because I don't think everyone realizes the power of their own voice and the fact that we don't need to be represented by a lawyer in order to express a violation against our rights.
Do you want to take this? Do you want me to take it?
Go, whatever you want to do, girl.
So
I'm listening.
Just sitting there looking pretty. So affidavits they're a well used and widely used tactics for people to keep a redress of grievances with their neighbor that stole their lawnmower, or with, you know, their soon to be ex-spouse, to redress their grievances and let them know, this is what has happened to me, this is the proof, and these are the damages, and this is what I would like to have happen, this is the remedy, and you've got a certain amount of time to get back with me and provide me remedy, or this will legally be your acquiescence or your acceptance of the claims that I have made in this document. So it's a traditional legal document, but that being said, it hasn't been traditional for us to redress our grievances directly to our state officials for quite a long time. Generations have gone by now without us knowing and keeping that knowledge of our constitutional right set in our minds and in our children's minds and our children's minds. It's gone by the wayside. I have a lot of college under my belt as a marine biologist, but I'd never read the Washington State Constitution or the US Constitution until around this time last year. First time, totally embarrassing, but I didn't even know the rights that we had. I did not know that we legally and lawfully can go directly to our elected officials, who are our servants, who are our employees. That is all they are. and it's their job to uphold the Constitution. We have the right to go directly to them if we think that they're not handling our business correctly. We do not need an attorney to speak for us. We do not need a judge to rule for us. Our founding fathers, as I looked into who they were as people and reading their essays and getting a feel for why they wrote the Constitution and where their motivation was from. And it was impactful when I learned that they intended the Constitution, the US Constitution, to be read, understood, and utilized by farmers in the field.
Yeah.
It was not, you know, you've got to go hire an attorney that spent all this time in college to break down the Constitution for you and help you understand it. And it was not, oh, get into a judge's courtroom and he'll rule on what your rights are, and he's going to teach you the Constitution. None of that was part of it, not even a little bit. So it's been a real fallacy that we have been taught as a nation, that the Bar Association and attorneys are somehow the folks that have to speak for us. It's absolutely false. So, and I think it's really powerful, and it's time that we learn this and learn how to lawfully go speak to our representatives and let them know when we're not happy with their job at work.
Yeah. So, okay. And I just want to give everyone kind of a big umbrella level picture of the work that we've been doing, the work that you're doing. So we, in Bonds for the Win, we had a 3-step process where first you pull their oath of office and their bond policy and their criminal liability policy. What that did, though, all it really did was like a shot across the bow. It let them know, hey, guess what? You should read what you signed. You should know, because what we're doing really is dismantling their army, right? We're pulling one Jenga piece out at a time. We're saying, did you know you signed an oath? And right. And then the second step really for us was a letter of intent, which has no legal bearing per se. It just says, did you know that by pushing these mandates, you are in violation of these 27 state, federal, and international laws? So we were being friendly. At Bonds with Them, we were being friendly. You came in with the cannonball.
Well, it's a cannonball, but it's also an olive branch at the same time.
Yeah.
The affidavit process is saying, like, listen, we've done this work, and this is what we have realized that you're doing. Do you realize you're doing that too? We want to remedy this, and now is your chance to remedy this with the people whose individual rights you are supposed to be protecting, because that's the basis of our Constitution. That's what our government officials have a duty to, is to protecting our individual rights specifically.
I love that. And so I've literally come across these people that have been utilizing these tools, whether it be asking for the oath of office, sending a letter of intent, or sending an affidavit. And that is really the 3-step process. The third step is to do the affidavit process and to give the evidence of your case and to file a claim, or to just simply serve them. And if you serve them 3 times and they don't reply, it's an admission of guilt. So do you think they're going to get back to your 60,000 plus affidavits?
Well, I'll break some news right here today. We have gotten one response from our Attorney General's office, and it was about what I expected. One thing about affidavits as well is that you lay out exactly how they must respond. You lay out the applicable and acceptable responses. This was not an acceptable response, but basically it was a letter emailed to the Washington State Tea Room, talking down to us, laying out all of the court cases that have been kicked out or lost in our very corrupt district court system here in Washington State. Just basically using those as saying, see, you don't have any standing because there's been, I think he said 45 of these that talked a little bit about what you're talking about, and they all got kicked out of court. So I don't know why you even think you have any standing or any right to talk to us. So
all but 3 got dismissed specifically. All but 3 of these have gotten dismissed. That's what he said.
Yeah. So it was just a talking down to, and honestly, the affidavit process for me personally has been about waking the people of Washington State up. That's why we live stream when we go down there and take the folks with us. They can go into the Capitol with us and see what we're experiencing. We're very transparent about everything that we're doing, because I feel like Washington State people have been pretty apathetic. I know that I have. We've been kind of asleep to what's going on. And I think it's been really eye-opening, at least for me personally, to watch how disrespectful our state government is. And so that's been a very powerful thing of this process. And then we have more phases after this, which are criminal complaints coming up next, as well as a civil suit where these documents will be put in as evidence. So we're going hard in the paint after this. This was the easy part. They could have been very nice, and they decided to ignore us.
So no, sure answer, no. We didn't expect them to respond to us at all. In fact, we still have one of our state senators that is completely blackballing us in every turn. Hasn't responded to any emails or calls. Responded to me once. Their office said that they needed to speak with admin about it, and then will not return any phone calls. The lights are on in the offices, but no one is home.
Right. So, okay. So it sounds to me like you have quite a few ways you can play these cards moving forward. And obviously we don't want to give them any of your plans. So I probably will keep a little bit of that to myself. But as I understand, having so many separate affidavits, they have to handle each case as a unique case file at this time, unless you were to loop it into a civil type of rights case, or into a, what do they call it when it's grouped? The case.
I forget this every time. It's like a mental block.
I know, me too.
You know what you're talking about, when groups of people come together to do a suit. Yes.
Yeah, I think that I've been told. What I've been told,
like a
though,
class
is
action.
that you really want, class action. That's what it is. Class action lawsuit. I've been told is that you really don't want to have a lawyer representing you because they represent the Queen, and that you really probably want to bring in constitutional group that will force the judge to rule on behalf of common law versus maritime law, right? So there's a lot of plays you can make here. This would be very interesting how this plays out, and each one can be its own unique case, which means they would be having to cover all those expenses on their own to cover their own legal representation, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Right.
So, okay, so how did you go about getting so many people to share their testimony and to go through this process? And do you have like a template? Did you share a website? How did you get them all educated on this?
Emily, I'll let you take that, because Emily is first and foremost the team leader of one of our juggernaut teams out in Spokane, and they brought in so many affidavits. It was crazy. So go ahead, Em.
Yeah, so it's been a fun kind of give and take juggling game when we started this, because a lot of this was stuff that we weren't putting out publicly. We were doing these movements and producing these events for people to come and sign affidavits by word of mouth. So we were speaking from a freedom-loving American to freedom-loving American, patriot to patriot, saying, like, you want to do something about this, what our government in the state is doing, here is something tangible. These people have put in a lot of work. Come be a part of this movement. It's not just signing a petition, putting your name on a bill, which is really important too. And we all really try to support each other in these movements, because we need us all here. We need all hands on deck in this. But it was a lot of work. I mean, we put on events that were all day, and we found businesses or churches that would support us and that would let us come in and hold these events. And I started making flyers and spreading the word and talking to my friends and having them make their connections. And we would just end up with these events where people were just flooding in there. People were at events sometimes waiting for hours and hours just to sign an affidavit, because this was so important to them. This is so important to them. And most of these patriots, at the end of getting their affidavits signed, reading through this, getting them notarized, were more than happy to wait. Most of them said, I would wait all day for this. I would wait all week. I've been waiting for years for this, right? Like, this has become such a movement of the people because it is a movement from the people. And this is how it started, because we're totally grassroots. We're all volunteers that believe wholeheartedly that this needed to happen. We're not people that sit around and just want to complain to other people about it. We're all people of action. And that's how I got started in this, because I was already doing things locally and looking for something statewide at a bigger level to get involved in, because I knew that you can't just, I mean, you can affect change hyper locally, but to affect real change, you need to hit every avenue, all of it, because it starts at the top in our state. It starts at the top and dwindles down, and that's how it affects us and our children. And a lot of us have just had enough.
Yeah, I love that. Well, so, and it's funny because Flynn's out there talking, you got to start local, you got to do these things. But I think what people don't realize at this point is we got to get courageous. Like I joke that courage is the new variant because we really do. It's being able to stand in your honor, in your dignity, in your glory, in your grace, and give that personal testimony, which is in the form of an affidavit, which is in something they cannot deny, they cannot ignore. And that is when we take back our power. I mean, Trump said he was going to give power back to the people, and I think he already did. We just never declared it. We never took it. We never said, okay, yes, we will stand in our honor. We will throw the stick against this electric, fence and see if it's still electric, because it's not. They have no authority over us. They have no authority. And you can maybe even respond back to your AG and be like, and what authority do you have over me? Because quite frankly, my mind's blown right now. I'm just throwing out the questions for everyone to go dig and research. But if Trump dissolved the corporation in 2019, the United States Inc. corporation was dissolved. He took us back to the Republic. So what does that mean? Does that mean that the states are dissolved too, and thereby all of the rules and bylaws and state statutes and revised state statutes are dissolving with the corporation? Like, we have to start asking these questions, because who are we fighting anyway? Are we fighting ourselves? Or because there's an entire new republic being formed, and they're the ones who dictate and decide what these governors do and don't do, because it's back to we the people over Congress. It's we the people over government, right? The republic was restored. But until the powers that be understand that, until we stand up for ourselves, and see, standing up for yourself is just like going through another layer of fear. It's just an ascension process, right? Mm-hmm. It's an activation. And we haven't been taking an active part. So I love that people were lining up at every public look and saying, I'm ready to learn, to give a testament, to give a testimony, to fight for my children, to fight for my country. You know what I mean? Versus just listen and being passive and all this, a lot of problems.
Yeah. I think a lot more people anymore are really feeling the fact that they have a duty to stand up for their rights. They have a duty. And it's not just about moving out of the state to fix it. It's about fixing the problem in our country. And they have a duty to stand up for themselves as an individual, just like me. I feel compelled to do this. I know Brianna's the same way. I'm compelled to stand up for this, because if not me, this is right, Brianna, this is like the motto that like she has, been forefront of, which I have felt this whole time. If not me, who? If not now, when? And there's so many people that resemble or reflect that sentiment to us in this, because they're just ready to stand up, and they understand that the things that are happening to them are wrong, and they want their voices to be heard. And this power that in these affidavits was one of the most important parts of this, because we're giving them that power. And even if like the outcomes of this are unknown to us, this is
no one's ever done this before, guys.
We've never done this in the state before. So paving this road for us, just to watch every single little victory, to see people feel like, oh yeah, like I can do something to push back. I can demand my individual rights to be heard. And watching this happen and watching people be like, I want to be involved. To me, that's one of the biggest parts of this. Seeing people wake up and be like, you know what? I am sick of this. I want to do something, and I want to get involved. And that's been, like it fills me up every day watching people do this and want to get involved. And it's been amazing.
Well, so I want to tell people about that really quick. I've had a few people come and teach me even more effective ways to deliver affidavits. You can literally just go get the email address for your county or your city clerk, and you can send them your affidavit and any evidence. You can even do it as a whistleblower, and you can do it anonymously. And you can literally send them, because you actually have a civic duty to report child abuse, especially. So it's up to that clerk to then distribute it to the whatever it is, the public servant that you're issuing it to. It could be to the mayor, could be to the city council, could be to the board of commissioners, could be to the Board of Supervisors. Anybody can send a letter and an affidavit that has to be delivered. And if you send it 3 times and they don't respond, they're admitting guilt. So I've got a girl in Anaheim who's just perfected this process. And she just pretty much has them on, like I joke, speed dial, but it's mostly speed email. And she'll text the county clerk, yeah, I'm not a big fan of this, smart meter in my house. Boom, it's gone. My neighbors don't like theirs either. Boom, they're gone. Yeah, there's a bunch of trash on the street. Boom, it's gone. I don't like the kids being masked on the street. Boom. These things, our enemy is never going to admit defeat. They're never going to say when they back down or how or why. But this is how we dismantle their army. We put them back on their heels, which is exactly what you guys did. And if we can all get good at this process.
Yes, this is definitely a numbers game. I mean, getting back our country and our states is a numbers game. The affidavit process is a numbers game. Emailing, calling, all of it, because it's that pressure that our government isn't used to, because they've been just running amok for generations and doing whatever they feel like, forgetting the Constitution, state and federal. And I know it was shocking for a lot of folks on the 4th at the Capitol, and I think that was one of the funniest things of the day, of just watching people kind of peeking out of their offices and then scurrying back inside. It was the buzz in there was just like, oh my God, what is this? And people can see that day if they would like to go with us on the 4th again and walk through. That's on CJTV on YouTube and Bard's Eye News on YouTube. But yeah, it was frustrating day, a long day, but it was also good to see, because they've never seen that before. And that was one of the running things, like we've never gotten, boxes and boxes of documents, served to our offices before. We don't know how to do this. And I'm like, all right, well, first time for everything. But it really is, it's empowering the people. And all of these movements, I feel like, is a way to empower the people, because that is what is needed right now, is for the American people to feel empowered, to learn what their rights are, learn what their power is, learn what it means. We all know, oh, the power is inherent in the people. We've said it so many times now that it's kind of like, oh, we don't really know what that means anymore. But it really means that the people are the top of the food chain, God, then us. And after that, we give power to every single person and entity after that, which is our government, our sheriffs, all of that. So it's there for the taking. We just have to stand up and take it.
So where do you guys go from here? What can we do to support you? Do you want more people to join your army in Washington? Are you suggesting others do the same in their state? What would you like to see happen coming from your efforts?
I personally would love it to continue around the nation. Not every state is involved. There's just a few handfuls of us. But I would love people to come and learn, because the affidavit process isn't just for state governments. Utah's been using it against school boards, against health departments and private businesses that have obviously stepped over people's rights over the last 2 years. So this process can be used in your day-to-day life, and it redresses of grievances for whatever you've gone through over the past 2 years. And but it's also what we need in Washington State. We've got some communities that don't have awesome team leaders yet, so we're still trying to spread it out and find some good leaders and get some groups going. Because the next step, the criminal complaint step, which is, it's not a secret, it's out in the open. We're wanting to do another monumental move and get just thousands and multiple thousands, tens of thousands of people together on a criminal complaint against our state government, and really give them something that they have to think about. We'll be doing that in federal and superior court. So there's going to be another round of signing events, what Emily was talking about. And I want to make sure that every community in Washington State gets an opportunity to be a part of it this time. So that's what we're looking for, is just more help in the areas that don't have help. So.
And what's your website?
The website is under construction.
Okay.
Sorry, I like to think about stuff, but it is it's wastatetearoom.com. So WASTATETEA room.com. So wastatetearoom.com. But we're also on Facebook. So we've got a ton of stuff on there, and you can follow us, and we do lives and ask us questions through there in the interim. So.
What's the name of the Facebook group?
Emily, what is it?
It's the same. You can look it up on Facebook under Washington State Tea Room, but the name is WA, just like our website, WA State Tea Room.
Love it. Awesome. Well, that is incredible, you guys. This is so motivational, and I think everyone should do this in every state. I think teaching people this process is everything, right? I mean, and if they're not making progress by pulling oaths of office or giving letters of intent, this really is that next stage, and we just have to get brave. Like I said, it's those hometown heroes that are rising, and it's in setting precedents. Is every time we do something we win, we gotta, shout from the rooftops and teach each other how to do this, because they're not going to tell us they back down because, like we have 11 states now that have backed down on mask mandates, but they're not going to tell you why.
Right.
That's so true. Like the funniest thing is just watching people like, oh, where can we see information about what other states around the nation have done and had success? And I'm like, you know what? They're not saying it. It's not just out in the news. Like, hey, this team did the affidavit process and got this, to happen. And it's really, you just have to know what to look for. Like in Wisconsin, them opening up that they're, or looking into their elections and their election integrity that they're doing right now. That came about from a group like us, this even smaller group than us, was able to get that action. So, I mean, it happens. It just has to take, or it just takes us standing up and folks, just normal folks. Me and Emily, we're not special. Our other core leaders, they're not special. We're just normal folks. I've got a dog asleep in the background right here.
I'm a mom. We all have careers and families and, other things. We're just willing to put in this time and volunteer our work. But to that effect, also, I was going to say, this is why it's also so important for us to be spreading the word about what we're doing. Telling people and people like you, Mickey, getting on here and spreading the word to other people in other states so that they understand that there are teams and there are things that they should be looking for, because unless they're looking for this kind of stuff specifically, it's not going to get nationalized, right? It's not going to get put out unless we push it out. So this is why this stuff is so important for us to come together and really push this information out and disseminate it out so that people know that there are people doing things like this and they do have options.
Yeah. And I would put that call out. I'd say anyone who wants to run this type of a program nationally, jump on, come up with a website name and go for it. Let's start collecting names and addresses and giving people the power, teaching them how to do these techniques within their own local.
Will help.
Yeah. And I mean, because it's like we can all only do so much, but we can definitely start lifting each other up. And that's what I love is happening right now. There's so many hometown heroes. And I love that the enemy has no idea what direction you guys are coming in, because everyone's coming out with their own angle, which is awesome. We're like an army of misfits.
Best part, like coming up from every angle, and they're just sitting there scrambling, like, what do we do? The people are rising up, and it's like, yes, they need.
You're thinking about this, they want to box you in. They want to box you in. They want to say people that fight back for their individual constitutional rights are only this square box of people. And those are the only ones who do it, right? Yeah. They want to put you and label you and fight back with virtue signaling and ad hominem. So for us to be able to just skip right around that and say, like, none of that stuff falls on me. I'm a duck. I can wipe that dirt right off my shoulder. That's not for me. I'm sorry, because I don't fit in that box.
Right.
And I will still fight for my liberty, and I will fight for your liberty just as much.
I love that. And we're going to make the change, because I'm telling you, that whole mountain of influence is about to crumble. I can just feel it. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, well, thank you so much. I'm definitely, I'm going to show your video before we start, but thank you so much. This has been so empowering. I'm so proud of you ladies. And I know how much work this takes. I know the kind of commitment and the type of sacrifice that you've made for all the people in Washington and for all those that signed and jumped into this affidavit process. Congratulations. You should feel a very serious sense of inner sanctity, like you're taking back your control, and this is a war for the mind, and when we declare and decree over ourselves and our family, we are empowered. And so thank you so much for what you're doing. I'm so excited. Maybe I can have you on in another month or so to see how things are going.
Absolutely. And we look forward to learning more about your guys' stuff as well, because I have to admit, I have not had time to follow anyone else's journey.
I got it.
And I'm looking forward to it because I think you guys have a lot of knowledge, and that's the thing. We all as groups have to work together and come together and support each other. So we're here to support you guys too. Thanks for having us on.
I love
Thank
it.
you.
Well, thanks so much. It was a pleasure meeting you, and we'll talk again soon. Okay.
Perfect.